Okay, today I will talk to you about how to understand love and be happy. When you understand love, you're going to be happier. And my approach will be using science, real physical brain science. I know about that because I'm a neurologist. So I spend my life studying the brain, the structure of the brain, and we will use that to help you understand love. This is the second lecture, so some of you were not here last one, so I'll go over that relatively quickly. Love happened, and its first phase is mate selection. Nobody ever fell in love, but don't know yet whom I'm in love with. They have to be a chosen person as a first step to start love. And that's the single most important phase in love. If you select the right person, you will find true love and be happy. If you select the wrong person, you will not find true love. So we spend last presentation and this presentation talking about this. Last presentation, we talked about unconscious brain contributions. Part of love is unconscious. You cannot make yourself love somebody or stop loving somebody. It just happens by itself because it's unconscious. So if you missed the last one, we'll go over it a little bit more. My goal is to eradicate many myths about love that are not based on reality or science or anything like that. So we'll talk about a few myths. First, that love comes from the heart. For thousands of years, we heard that love comes from the heart. You see the beloved, your heart beat fast, because your heart somehow has eyes to see that. And I proved that is love from the heart or from the brain, that love comes from the brain. That the heart has nothing to do with it. Some people came afterwards and showed me some publication claiming that it's the heart that feeds the brain. And I investigated that and it's pseudoscience. I'll go over it at the end if the person who asked that will come. Is supposed to be here. Another myth, some people wrote books, give presentations, TED Talks, ABC News, NBC News, that love starts by lust. You meet someone, you don't like them, but it is okay, I'll have sex with them, wow, this is good. And that results in you falling in love with them, having romance, and that romance will lead to the attachment, and they did these supposed scientific studies to prove that. And you know, there's so much pseudoscience, you can do scientific studies to prove anything. So I say this is absolute garbage. Do I have evidence for that? Do I have evidence that love is a separate brain system from sex? Yes, there's plenty of evidence for that. Think about love without sex. There are cultures that don't allow sex before marriage. Do the young people fall in love, has romance, lose sleep, obsess and dream about somebody, see them the heartbeat? Yes, they do it exactly the same as those who have sex before love. And look about the opposite. What about sex without love? Some ex-president, some heads of armies, senators and so on has wonderful sex with other individuals for a long period of time. When things got tough, what did they tell them? Goodbye. How come? If lust leads to romance, you should have stayed with these people because they have so much good sex with you. That's it. I am in love with you. It doesn't fit. What about satiety? If you have sex, you feel I'm satisfied, I had enough, can't do it anymore, thank you. But do we have that for love? Anybody ever felt that I had enough love for today, for this week or this month? No. We continuously want love from the moment of birth to the moment of death. And we never have enough of it. We always want to have more. So they behave differently. It's not one and the same things. What about the number of partners? People always fall in love with one single individual. But with sex, you can have multiple partners. People that go to the bar looking for somebody, they go there, and next week you might try somebody else and somebody else. Sex is towards a range of individuals. Love is toward one single individual only. What about the effect of sex hormones? We know as physicians that if you give somebody sex hormones, it stimulates and revs up the sex desire. They have more sex. But have anybody ever claimed that because of the sex hormones, I have more sex, I love my partner more, I'm more attached to them? Never had that. Doesn't happen. Because it works on the sex hormone that affect the sex, but sex is a separate system from love. What about women who never have orgasm? They claim the purpose of love is the big O. Then they shouldn't be able to fall in love with anybody. We know that they do, like everybody else, it's unrelated. And what if somebody falls in love and his love is rejected? Many stories like Romeo and Juliet, people commit suicide, some people kill the other person. But if you make 6 advances to somebody who is not interested, say forget it, move somewhere else. Nobody ever had rejected sex that killed himself, killed another one. The two systems are separate. There's, however, overlap. Like I'm a doctor, I have a nurse, I have an effect on her, she has an effect on me. That doesn't mean that I'm the nurse and the nurse is me, and that proves that we are one and the same. So when you have sex with someone you love, it's more enjoyable. We'll explain later on the basis for that. And when you love someone and close to them physically, intimacy helps to increase and strengthen the bonding. So there's some interaction, but it's not one and the same thing. Second one is love is a one event that lasts for a lifetime. We all believe from childhood, Cinderella went once, met the prince, and she fell in love, and she lived happily ever after. There's even a recent song that says love can touch us one time and last for a lifetime. But is this true? I tell you it's not. Love is like pregnancy. It goes in phases. To get pregnant, first phase, you have to be physiologically mature. When you're 10 years old, you have the maternal instinct. You cannot have children, you get a toy and play with it. When you reach maturity, then first, second phase will be to actually get pregnant, have a baby kicking and moving, and you're very happy and excited about it. But if this the actual baby, it's not yet. You have to go to a third phase, which is painful and uncomfortable, called labor. But we have to put up with it to end up with phase 4, which is having the actual baby in our hand. Love is the same. It happens in phases. First phase is mate selection. Selecting who is the perfect mate for you, and each one of us is different, so each one have a different mate that will be a match for you. And after that, once you select the mate, you start in love and romance. But does romance last for a lifetime? Based on physical brain science, physical brain chemistry, there's a system for that, and the system is for a purpose. When the purpose is achieved, the system stops. Similar to pregnancy. Why does it last 9 months and doesn't last for 15 years so the baby comes out ready to get married and have children? It has a purpose. We met the person, we have to seize and move on. And move on to what? To falling out of love. What? If I fall out of love, that's the end of love. But this is similar to the woman who say, I am mature, I got pregnant, I have labor pain, oh, this is terrible, abort it. Then we start all over again, get pregnant after 9 months, abort it. She'll never have a baby. It's the same with love. Falling of love, and I'll prove to you, have a function, have a purpose, have a benefit for us. And romance ends for a specific reason. We'll show you and prove that to you. And after that, falling of love, you start the true love. Based on different brain chemistry, based on different brain system. And this is the love that lasts you for a lifetime. It's not romance. Next myth is that the sexes are equal in their effort to select a mate. The men just spend as much time and effort as women do. But in reality, I tell you, no, women are more picky than men. Typical woman can have children from age 15 to 55, 1 egg every 28 days, so that's 13 eggs a year. Total lifetime will be 520 eggs. And that's assuming she doesn't get pregnant. Because every pregnancy is 280 days. You use 1 egg, you waste another 10. While if you look at the man, he can have trim age 15, 95, 85, Every time he is with a woman, he gives 50 million genetic samples. If an average person has sex 3 times a week, say 52 years, that totals in a lifetime of 600 billion genetic samples. Cut it down, make it 520. So for every 1 egg by the woman, the man has 1 billion. And that's why the value of the egg for the woman is very valuable, very high. She is very, very protective of it, much more than the man. 2 people retire, one have $520, one have $520 billion. The value of the dollar is not going to be the same. It will be totally different. So is there evidence from the biology, evidence that women had to biologically adapt to the fewer number of age? Let's look at the man. The man selects someone before pre-meaning, before coital meaning sex. Which one are going to choose to be my mate and give it the samples? Then what does he do after that? Nothing. What about the woman? She selects a man like he did before getting with him, pre-coitus, before sex. Is she done? No. She continued to select during sex. What, during sex? Yes. She doesn't put the egg right next to the sperm. She put it as far away as she can at the end of the fallopian tube. So these 50 million little guys have to run through the vagina, the cervix, the uterus. Guess which fallopian tube go to the end? If you enlarge the size of the sperm to be the size of a human being, the distance will be about 50 to 60 miles. So she made these 50 million little guys have a competition to run as fast as they can to get to downtown Los Angeles. So who will get there? The best, the fittest, the strongest. So she still selected the best of all of them. Now after that, the egg is fertilized. Is she done selecting? No. Even after that, she continues to select. How does she do that? She monitors the new fetus. If it has genetic defects, she will have a spontaneous miscarriage. We know medically that 85% of all miscarriages are fetuses with very defective genes with big problem. Then you're going to realize, why should I waste 10 more eggs for something that's not product? Better get rid of it and start right away next month with another one. So the biological evidence for that. So we said that love does not come from the heart, it comes from the brain. That love does not start by sex, love is a totally separate system. And that there's more than one phase in love. And that the sexes are not equal. Women are more cautious about their eggs than men, and that causes some biological difference, which sometimes women misunderstand about men and men misunderstood about women. The thing is going to be the same, it should be the same, but it's not. Now we went over the brain in a little bit before, and it's very easy. The brain has 3 parts. The oldest part is always in red. A newest part was added later on that was in green, and the newest part is the blue one. The old one is common in reptiles. These are like frogs and crocodiles. So they call it the old because it's the oldest reptilian and reptile brain. Now this part of the brain is for survival. If you damage that in any animal, the animal is dead right away. Important to know that this part is unconscious and involuntary. Your heart now is beating because of this red part. Can you make your heart beat faster? Or you say, no, I'm going too fast, better slow down? You can't. It's unconscious, it's involuntary. And the second part was added for emotion. Love, hate, fear, all of that came from this part. This part is also involuntary and unconscious. You cannot make yourself love someone. You cannot stop yourself from loving someone because it's unconscious and involuntary. New brain is the thinking brain. The one that I'm using now to talk to you, and the one that you're using to understand the lecture, to think about it, is for language, invention, discoveries, all of that. And it is conscious and voluntary. I can consciously decide what I want to take. Here's a human adult. This is the old brain. And if it's damaged, person is dead. We know that. This is the part responsible for emotion. It's well defined, so they give it the name limbic. The huge part in the human brain, 85%, is this big conscious thinking brain. That's why we are much smarter than other animals. But our limbic brain is exactly the same as the birds, and the reptilian brain is exactly the same as frogs, birds, and us. There's no difference. So we discuss how the unconscious brain added to us. The old reptilian brain gives us vision to select. The frog will look around, find the frog with the biggest body to suggest health, good body dimension to suggest good genes, and checks the mating pouch to make sure she will have a lot of children. Birds do the same. And do we humans do the same? Do we go look at pictures of people before we decide, and based on the features and the symmetry and all of that, decide, yes, he looks handsome, or she looks beautiful, and they look sexy, because we can have a lot of children. The purpose is to have a lot of healthy children, healthier than us. They also use hearing. They listen to a low-pitched voice in the male to suggest more sex hormones, to suggest high fertility. Then intermediate limbic brain came and added smell as a method of choosing a mate. And it is very important. And it added the emotion of love, which is unconscious, which we'll cover in different ways. So let's talk about smell. We had smell since the fish had the grill, and that was the main smell system, which smells spices, roses, perfume, and so on. But a new system called the accessory, because it added smell system, and the system became for identification of people based on pheromones. So what are exactly pheromones? Okay, so pheromones are basically genetic samples of you, like your fingerprint. Each one of us has totally different genes from other people. You know, two single people on earth look exactly the same. Everybody's a little bit different because our genes are different. Right. The total number of gene variation on earth is equal to the total number of people on earth. So you send that genetic sample for other people to use their accessory sensory system to identify. You know, the dog identifies people by smelling them. It's basically checking the pheromones, reading the genetic code and putting it in his memory to remember you next time. And they can follow the smell to follow people. So how is it involved in mate selection? One example I give you, we have 15 genes that we know about, but I'll just use one, called MHC. It's a gene that codes your immune system for you. And if you're with a woman, it will code the immune system for her. And if you look at the two codes, you can predict the immune system for the child. So they did a study called T-shirt smell test. We had T-shirts of men that they were given to women and T-shirts of women that were given for men. Then they took genetic samples and looked and proved that a woman will select a man that when her own unique gene mixed with his own unique genes will produce healthy children. And if a man's unique gene mixed with her will produce unhealthy children, then she will feel that he doesn't smell good, I don't like it, and so on. So nature are actively, unconsciously using smell to attract us to certain people and not other people. Some people call it chemistry. I met somebody, felt the chemistry was there, it wasn't. They unconsciously referring to that. They even confirm it again by looking some relationship. Everybody is happy with the relationship. Nobody looks outside. Other relationship, neither party is happy, looks outside. Looked at those that happen, proved that the genes of the male plus the female produce very healthy children. So they feel satisfied, they feel content that I am fulfilling my biological function in nature and I'm happy. Those that were not happy, they proved that when you mix the genes of one partner with the other one, you don't get very healthy children. And the people they decide to have an affair with, their genes, with that gene, produce healthier children. So we unconsciously use that to fulfill our biological duty in having healthy children that are as good as us, if not better, as well as many of them as we can. So let's look about the new brain and mate selection. Does anybody here have a certain image in his mind about the person you want to be with in your conscious brain, that has to be conscious brain? Yes, everybody does. So we prepare for that. But we form what's called person of my dream mental image. And the name for that in Latin is fantasy. The problem with that word is in English became fantasy or imagination. But in Latin it means mental image of reality. I form an image in my mind that I believe this is reality. I'm going to find this image in reality. I don't feel that I'm imagining. Anybody believe the person of your dreams is an imagination, not reality? Usually not. So let's look a little bit more and ask about what are the features. Some people have physical characteristics. A guy was telling me he was looking at Match.com and a woman said she wants somebody who's 6'2". If you're 6'1½", don't waste your time. I'm going to measure you outside my door. I'm going to send you away. And somebody else, he printed that, had one of the picture of a guy with bluish green or greenish bluish eyes. If you're green, if you're blue, don't waste your time and my time. You're totally out. So some people are amazingly specific on the physical details of the mate. Other people choose intellectual characteristics. Want somebody who's smart, or want somebody who's sort of analyzes things well, and so on. Some people use emotional. I want somebody who's funny, somebody who's relaxed, somebody who's very tense and intense, and scream during football makes the windows in the neighbors break down, or things like that. Choose that. And many people choose financial characteristics. We know that one of the limitations for women or females is that when they were birds, they had to sit on the eggs for a period of time for the eggs to hatch. They couldn't go and find food. So they needed a mate who can support them during this period of time. And when they became human and she's full term, she can go on hunt or get food. So unconsciously they proved that women unconsciously prefer men with more financial asset or security than other men. Quote, I want security. Some have all of the above. Some of them can teach me something new and says none of the above, it's something else. We'll talk about that at the end. Okay, how do we build this image? Anybody started the image last month? Anybody? Last year? 5 years ago? More than 20 years ago? Probably everybody. Yes? Yep. How old do we start that? When do we start and how do we build it? We started in a very young age. When she was 5 years old, she drew a picture of herself and me and saying that she's going to marry the best man she ever met, and that was me. But why does she start to think about that at age 5? Anybody have children have the same thing? They start to think from a very young age. It's simply for one single reason, is that the connection between the new brain and the intermediate limbic brain is very weak. And as a result, it takes a long time to do that. If you want to fill a bucket with water with a big faucet, it takes you 5 minutes. You start to fill it 5 minutes before you need it. But if it's one drop every 6 hours, you're going to start much earlier to allow time for it to fill. So for us to have the conscious brain that have weak connection to the limbic brain, contribute to the image of the person of my dream, we have to start from a very young age. There's science to that, but I don't want to complicate it. How do we build the image? What kind of sources of information we use? First one is personal experience. My daughter looked at which people she knows as men, and based on her experience found the best man she knows was her dad. So she selected him and said she is going to marry dad. That was based on personal experience. And through life, we go and meet other people. I like this person, I don't like that person, I like this feature. And this is based on reality. These are real people in real life. And second one is family experience. My aunt was happy with her husband because of that. My other aunt was very unhappy because of this. And you look at different family members that you meet firsthand, that you see their life, and you learn from that. That's also based on real, physical, personal, first-hand experience. Then the 15th century came and something horrible happened that started to change mate selection completely and totally. Anybody knows what happened in the 15th century that changed that? A German guy invented the so-called press print. You can now print things in massive quantity, very cheap. That results in books becoming very cheap. More people can read books, and a new profession or things start called romance novels. Now you don't rely on people that physically met. Now we have these fantasy images of a perfect man who does the perfect things all the time, say the perfect thing in the first moment, with a perfect woman who does everything perfect all the time. And we start to build in the image a fantasy, in a sense, to refine this image of the person of my dreams. And then we started to have the cartoons for the children, Cinderella and the other story, to start from a very young age to imagine that she will just go and meet a prince one time, she'll be happy, and that's going to happen in reality, and grow up believe that's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, it's the fault of the reality, because my fantasy is correct. And then it got even worse. We started to have romantic novels and romantic movies and romantic TV series. Now we physically see a man who is very handsome, very smart, say do the perfect things all the time, with a woman who is beautiful, perfect, gorgeous, very intelligent, doesn't say every perfect things. And you say to yourself, I want someone like that. I personally was guilty about that. When I was young in medical school, people asked me what the woman of your dreams looks like. I said she has to look like Linda Carter, because at the time she had the kind of Wonder Woman or something like that. She looked gorgeous. And there was a French philosopher I liked a lot called Simone Beauvoir, very, very intelligent. So I wanted someone who looked like Linda Carter and someone who was as smart as Simone Beauvoir. But guess what? Even at my age, I haven't met a single person who was like that. Even worse, if I meet them, they're not interested in me. Yeah. Millions of people better than me. But somehow we never realized that. So the more fantasies we have, the more we start to have the new problem that we hear nowadays a lot. I spend years looking, but I can't find the person of my dream. How many people have you heard saying that? And many times if you stop and talk to them, I had once a girl who was very depressed because she can't find the person of her dream. So I asked her, what is the image of the person of her dream? She was 5'2", weighed about 200 pounds. And at the time it was Schwarzenegger was the governor, and she wanted somebody with the figure of Schwarzenegger. But in her own mind, she's convinced, yes, I deserve somebody like that, I want somebody like that. Then we say, I cannot find that. And the conclusion is the more we involve the new brain, the more difficult it gets. And if you look at the history of mate selection and so on, people start to wait because they can find the man of their dreams from the time romantic novels started in the 15th century. Before that, it wasn't a problem. After that, it kept getting worse and worse. So the bottom line is you have to allow your unconscious brain. You feel I'm attracted to that person, things click, I'm happy, comfortable to be with them. Then after that, you can add the new brain component. If you start with the new brain component, you will not succeed, and we'll talk about that now. So your goal of your conscious brain, your mind, will be to achieve what? 3 things. Find somebody with a matching and close intellectual ability. Find someone with a compatible personality. And avoid patients with psychiatric disorders. If you have someone with psychiatric disorders, it's just trouble and never gets better. They cannot control themselves. Matching intellectual ability shouldn't be too hard to tell. I can tell you an experience I had myself when I had a resident, when I was a resident. He was an MD, PhD, so he does 8 years after college of education, very deep basic science, very intelligent man. He was dating a nurse. She was very attractive, she was sweet, funny, but intellectually they're not a match. She was frustrated that everything has to play into her 2 or 3 times so she gets it. She was frustrated that it's so complicated. Everything he has to make it so deep thought and analysis and this and that, and he just doesn't take it on the surface and take it easy. They watch a movie where somebody comes with a cake, hit another person in his face, she laughs, thinks this is so funny. Yeah, this is stupid, what's that? So big mismatch in personal and intellectual ability will be different. I spend more time to spell myth about personality. Some people believe I will find love if I select a mate with similar personality. That we will do personality match, we will find you the person one for you. First, what is personality? Personality medically defined as the style of behavior, the way you behave. Somebody's personality is when somebody tries to move into his lane, he will accelerate, scream and yell and raise hell and stop him from doing that. Somebody else will say, okay, that's fine, slow down, let him go, I don't want to get out in his way. Different personality. Everybody have different aspects of styles of behavior. But what determines your personality? Anybody knows? Part of it, genes. Parents that have children will tell you when they were 6 weeks old, they had a certain personality. When they are 30 years old or more, they had exactly the same personality. Your second child have a different personality. It happened to me. Until they mature, that they still have the same personality. So genes are a good part of it. Another part is upbringing. Your parents teach you to do this, to do that. You want to earn money, so you have to work for it, and so on. But in my mind, genes must be more important than upbringing. Because I'm one of 5 boys. We were all born in the same house, by the same parents, under the same rules, went to the same school, went to the same colleges. So the upbringing was identical. But we all look different. We all have different personality. And today, we're totally different personality. So a good part of personality is genetic. So some claim that if you find someone with a matching personality, you're going to find true love. The reason you are not in love, or your love is not successful, because the personality you looked for was wrong. And even say there's a set number of personality types, based on scientific research. That's what they claim. So how many personality types are there? Some, they call themselves usually neuroscientists, and I don't know if you are aware that the word neuroscientist doesn't have a specific meaning. They claim that there are 4 types of personalities, and that's what Hippocrates, you know, Hippocratic oath, 500 years before Jesus, Hippocrates said there's 4 different types of personality. Every couple of 100 years, somebody comes with a new twist to the 4 types of personality. And these people claim that each type is based on a specific brain chemical or hormones. And, for example, ex-President Bill Clinton personality, based on their scientific study, no question, a big real science, it's based on estrogen, no mistake here, it is estrogen. Get their books, read it, they tell you yes, it is estrogen. Even better than that, ex-presidential candidate Hillary Clinton personality was based on testosterone. That's correct. Buy the books, read it. Go to the TED Talk, go to the website. Yeah, this is real science. You haven't paid for this lecture, even going to do it better for you. You don't have to buy another book, because what happened is they didn't give enough testosterone. If that was true. But does taking sex hormone change personality or just sexual behavior? If the guy was always very aggressive and driving and so on, and you give him estrogen or testosterone, their personality will change. He became patient and quiet and tolerant and so on. It doesn't. In reality, it does not. It doesn't make a difference in personality. It sort of takes that away. It does make a difference for sexual behavior. You can give a man a lot of estrogen and they will change the sexual orientation and so on. But the basic personality, the style of the behavior does not change. So is it true that if you find someone with a matching personality, you'll find true love? Dating websites nowadays everywhere tell you that matching personality tests will lead you to believe that. Last night I was watching TV and there was an ad for this new website that say we do extensive personality testing to help you find the perfect mate. Does this have any basis if this is true, are there only 4 personalities? So if 25% of the population have a certain personality, that means they must have the same genes, the same upbringing, and that's possible. If it is, you should be taking the personality test and wasting your money on that. If it's not, then there's no more. Let's finish, then we'll talk about it.
All right.
And then we will avoid that. And if there's a proof, I use this saying, you know, the proof is in the pudding. You say you're a good cook, cook the pudding. It tastes good, yes you are. Doesn't taste good, it doesn't. Have anybody heard about chemistry.com and match.com? You know they're owned by the same company. Which one are they advertising now? Match.com or chemistry.com?
Match.com.
Match. Why that? Even the scientists who went to them and told them, I have the perfect way to sell people that personality is this and that, they appointed her as the chief scientific officer, they fired her. She's no longer affiliated with them. And it's just some people fall for it, so they do that. But in reality, matches seem to be better. What about eHarmony? Anybody prove that eHarmony, checking lifestyle and this and that will help you find true love? Living America hired a bunch of scientists to look at the success of matches based on this personality testing as unrelated to personality testing, like Match as opposed to chemistry.com. What difference did they find? Absolutely no difference whatsoever. The two were exactly the same. There's no real evidence to tell that. It's just a marketing, and it's a good marketing. But I must admit that drastically different personality could be a problem. So you have to use your new brain to avoid people with psychiatric disorders, to avoid people with grossly mismatching intellectual ability, but don't mix gender difference in emotions with personality incompatibility. Some people mix the two. I see some man upset because one time on the month she becomes irritable, then she's fine. This is just gender differences. This is not mismatching intellectual ability or anything else. And avoid grossly mismatching personality. So some people think I'm so smart, I can consciously select the perfect mate for me. I don't need all of that, this is garbage. I'm smart, I figure a lot of things in life, I can do that. Is it true? Can I only use the new brain, the conscious brain, and select a person? Can I make a checklist, which is conscious brain? I want this, I want that. And based on the checklist, find true love? If there's evidence to suggest that, I'll go back to the old saying. You can marry for love, or you can marry for money, but you cannot have both. Marrying for love meaning what? You're going to use all the 3 brain parts.
Why not?
And marrying for money, you only use only the conscious brain part to actively select. So is it true? Does it have any scientific basis? I tell you, absolutely yes. There's physical basis, there's brain science to prove that when you use the 3 brain parts, you find true love, and I'll explain the mechanism, how and when and why it happens later on, and that this is real physical physiology. And if you don't find true love. So how will I prove that? Will be another lecture. But the problem of not finding the mate be because the new brain generated an image that's unrealistic, and everything I tell you is totally useless unless you can use it to succeed in finding love. Otherwise, exercise in science and futility. So we're going to talk about managing that as well as managing all the 4 phases of love. But that will come in the future. I'll stop here and say, basically, when you finalize mate selection using all the 3 brain parts, you end mate selection and you start the next phase of love, which is romance. And that will be the next presentation.